Is the Mega 5 EST bass the new $500 benchmark? No, not even close, but I do like it more than the original 7th edition, which had as much seasoning as water. Now, I'm not sure if the Mega 5 HBB version is the same as the base edition, like it's a reskin, kind of like the EW300, or it's a different thing, but if it is the same, then come back and rewatch this video when the HBB version comes out. Compared to the original 7th edition, the main difference is that there's simply just more low end, which helps with the note weight as it feels less light and it feels fuller on the base version versus the original. Separation does take a slight hit as well as in the smaller details when you compare to the OG, which is cleaner and more vanilla, but aside from that, everything else is pretty much the same tuning wise. You'll still be getting that smooth, relaxing and inoffensive tuning, but now with just a little more oomph and slam in the low end, which makes the Mega 5 bass warmer and bassier now, and I do enjoy it a little bit more than the original one. Still well balanced, no mid-bass bleed, no muddiness or bloat or congestion in the vocals. The bass is prominent, but it's not overwhelming like a bass headset that kind of like fills the entire sound. I would say the Mega 5 bass is definitely a slow burner, and I'm not talking about burning and stuff like that. Like, it took me a while for it to really grow on me. Like, I was kind of indifferent to it like I was with the original Mega 5s, but I kind of dig it now. I do enjoy what it's trying to do. This is not a set if you want something more exciting, dynamic, contrasty, nor is it for those who want like a really thick and heavy like sound, really heavy note weight like the T-Pros, the DaVinci, stuff like that. Instead, the Mega 5 bass is for those who want a good amount of bass, so like pretty bassy, but you still want like a chill and smooth listen. It's really good for R&B and jazzier stuff, slightly warm to give it that like fullness and thumpiness, but still well extended in the vocals and treble to not feel congested. And it just reminds me of like a afternoon in fall, if that makes sense. Probably not. Because extension wise, the vocals and treble is not overly highlighted or forward, but they are well extended. I would say they don't pop out in terms of the energy, sparkle or splashiness, but it is very well balanced, and you're not gonna be missing like the vocals or like the treble, stuff like that. You do hear the ESTs, but it's not gonna be like super obvious and noticeable. It is still like fairly airy, but again, it's more subtle, but it is still there. Overall, the base edition gives me this like comforty feeling, and it's not too clean and monitor like the original, which made it just a bit too boring and a bit too bland for me personally. Whereas the base version is slightly more colored, but in a very enjoyable way. It's like quote unquote more musical in that sense. So yeah, sound wise, it's pretty nice, but the main issue is with its pricing, especially when you compare it to some like the newer stuff that just came out. For example, versus the T Pro, the Hype 4 and the Estrella, all three of those are gonna have better low end texture. They're more tactile, the separation is quicker, the notes feel a little bit more resolving and nuance on them, whereas the Mega 5 bass feels a little bit smooth, kind of like the 61T, but without the timbre and vocal issues, but still just like a little bit smooth in the bass. Like the impact and thump is there, you're not be like, oh, this is too light. No, like the bass, the quantity is enough, but it's just not as textured as the other ones. So depending on what you're looking for, like if you want like a smoother sound, you actually might prefer like the smoother presentation on the Mega 5 bass edition better. But in terms of overall dynamics, contrast, and the technical department of the sound, the other stuff, the T Pros, the Hype 4s, Estrella is gonna be better in that sense. Now, if you did enjoy the 61Ts and you're looking for like a similar sound, but just like overall upgrade in the treble, like the detail, the air, better timbre, better vocals, then the Mega 5 bass would be the direct upgrade to the 61Ts, but just not in the bass texture, which is kind of a bummer. So this puts the Mega 5 bass in a bit of a weird spot because the bass texture isn't as, on the same level as the treble and the pricing, which makes it a bit harder to recommend since there are like better choices around $500, like the ORACLE MK3s for example. Or you can even go for the KE4, which is not only more than 2 times cheaper, but like the low end on the KE4 is also better when it comes to the control and the texture with the dual dynamic isobaric setup. Sound-wise, both the bass edition and the KE4 leans on the warmer side of the meta tuning, but the KE4 is more dynamic to me. It sounds more engaging, and the low end again feels tighter and less boomy. It's a little bit more textured on the KE4s. Now it does feel less airy and smooth on the KE4s because it doesn't have the ESTs, but overall detail resolution, they're pretty similar, like a little bit better on the bass edition, but for almost 3 times like cheaper, it gets very hard to justify the Mega 5 bass when the KE4s exist. And then at around $500 and $600, you have the ORACLE MK3, which is the much better all-rounder in my opinion. It's cleaner, more well balanced, and it has the best of both worlds. It has good bass texture, better bass texture than the Mega 5 bass, but also has the clarity and the balance from the original MEGA5-7. Now the Mark III's bass isn't going to be as prominent in the quantity as the MEGA5 bass, but the texture, the tactility, the control is just better, it's tighter, it's again not as boomy, I would say, as well as just a boost in terms of the detail and resolution all across the board. Now if you want to like a comforting bassier, you know, like warmer listen, then the bass reduction is still gonna be better than the Oracle Mark III's, but like overall I would just take the Oracle Mark III's. I think it's just the better buy value wise, because personally I would go for the KE4s since they're just much better value wise, because I really don't think the ESTs is like completely justified the almost three times increase in the price, because they're not that obvious, they are tamer, they're more subtle. Again, it's not gonna pop out and really wow you in the treble. It's just a smooth, comforting listen, and that's what the KE4 does as well, but you know, just much cheaper and arguably with better bass texture as well. And the same could be said for the T Pros, which in my opinion are the better bassy balanced set, like better value, it has better low end texture, better tactility, you know, it has better detail and resolution as well when you compare to the MEGA5 bass, which is kind of wild. It's a little bit more dynamic. Like yeah, it's not gonna be as smooth, and it does have less bass overall. If you want more bass, MEGA5 would still be like better pick, it's still a bit warm, it's more comforty, but it's again hard to recommend the MEGA5 bass at its current price of almost $600 when the T Pros exist. And if you are looking for something around $600, I would wait for the TANGZU BAJIE or the Audio Origin before, you know, pulling the trigger, because I do have a feeling those are going to be better with the bone conduction and, you know, dynamic driver setup. But overall, these are still a very enjoyable IEM. If you're looking for a comforty, slightly warmer and more like smooth sound, these are pretty good. Now value wise, you can make the argument that the T Pros and the KE4s are better, but that is more subjective. If you like the sound really much, then you don't really care for the price, but you know, it's still a good set. Would I personally buy this for $600? No, probably not, but I know a lot of people who will, because these are pretty enjoyable and pretty capable IEMs. But anyhow, I hope this review was helpful. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Shout out to Rark's Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, This Call Scaldus, B_URAC, Mystic Spoon Attack, Oh Really, Walker Standard, User Ernest, Patrick, Belcel Kel, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, Anton Risto, Gis Seng Yan, Tamat Pat Fache, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Ben Thompson, Franco Gomez, Haigyu55, Asher, Wizard, Jab, Obi, iComment87, Contain Guava Juice Gains, and Treble Well Extended. Thank you guys so much.